Oh my god, I'm stuck. I just jumped straight into the detail there, assuming that you've all watched these videos before or you've been watching my vlog. Welcome everyone, or welcome back. I'm Sherry and this is Goodknits, my knitting channel here on YouTube, and you can also find me by that name on Instagram. Today's going to be a really traditional podcast episode, so I have a finished object as well as an update on one. I've got 3 whips and a bit of acquisitions, and at the end I just want to get a little bit chatty regarding an upcoming trip that I'm taking, and I have a bit of a bigger life update if anybody's interested, but I'll share that at the end so that we can really get through the knitting content, and then if you want to stick around for that, you are welcome to. Before we get into everything though, I just wanted to say a really huge thank you for everybody that's been watching the video I posted last week called The Wear Test, which was looking back at all the sweaters that I've knit over the last 6 months and how they sort of fared during the winter time. Did I wear them? How did I feel about them? What would I change? That video has done so well, and the feedback that I've gotten on it has been so overwhelmingly positive. I'm glad that you guys are finding it useful. So definitely I'll be doing more of those videos in the future because it was really fun for me to put together, and I'm really glad that you guys are finding it so helpful. Also, as a follow-up to that video, Ines from Vert reached out to me after watching it, and she let me know that the version 2 of the cardi jumper actually has some improvements for the things that I pointed out, which was the neckline looked a little bit sloppy on mine, which is also why I wasn't wearing it reversed. And she said that that has been addressed in the latest version, and I know that V2 version also has different finishing details. It also, I think it has a double knit button band in it. There's a stripe version, so definitely worth the money, and there's lots more options for you to consider with that one. Also, I think everybody from that video really agreed on the Salty Days sweater being a bit too tight and not quite for me. And there were some good ideas there around either selling it, but I think the one that I liked most was maybe finding, you know, a niece in my life or, you know, a friend who would be a better fit for that Salty Days. Realistically, I don't think I'm ever gonna frog it. I hate that process. It's not worth it to me. And if the gray isn't really my color anyway, it doesn't fit into my true autumn palette, then maybe it's better that that Salty Days go to a different home. So I still haven't fully decided on that, but I am thinking I'm gonna see if my niece back home, who I believe she turned 12 this year, maybe it's a piece that she would enjoy. It would be a little bit oversized and comfy and something that she could grow into, or perhaps I'll look at just giving it away, or maybe giving it away to somebody that wants to reclaim the yarn. So I'm still gonna store it, I think, for the season and see how I feel about it later. I also thought I could do a full-on wet block. I remember that I did a drain and spin on that one, and maybe that's part of the issue, but yeah, I don't think I'm gonna get a huge amount of stretch from it no matter what I do. And it's just not really the piece for me. So good to see that that was kind of the general consensus, and that everybody loved the same pieces I did, which was my Monday sweater and Gallant sweater in those more rich colors. So yeah, I'm really excited now to kind of start thinking about that spring wear test video and come back to you guys with that. So the first object that I want to get into today is my finished SONYA shirt, and this is a pattern by Paula Strick or Suzanne Muller, and I've been working on this for just over a month. I cast it on end of March, and I cast it off yesterday, Sunday, and did a wet block on it, and it just so happened to dry, I think, because it's quite a light material. So I decided to wear it today. However, I think it's going to be easier for me to talk about if I just do a quick garment change and then I can hold it up and really show it to you. And at the end, I'll insert some B-roll so that you can really see me wearing it, because it is a beautiful piece and I'm really excited to talk about it. So give me 1 second. So this is the SONYA shirt. And I am really happy with how this turned out. I was a little bit worried yesterday when I tried it on pre-blocking. It was quite tight and cropped, but I remembered my gauge swatch was really accurately done this time. I didn't stretch it at all. I got gauge, so I just trusted in the process, and definitely putting it on today, this felt so luxurious. It's made from the Gepard Garn Wild and Soft in the color Coffee Cream. I believe it's number 146. And that is this kind of taupey golden brown. And I think it's really, really flattering on me, and it's gonna go with a lot of the wardrobe that I bought for spring. This yarn was beautiful to work with. I think it's 60% wool, 40% silk, and it's just really, really soft and lightweight. It does have a little bit of, I'm trying to see if I have any in front of me. So this is the yarn, and it has this kind of texture to it. I did notice on some of the balls, I can't see it here, sometimes it'll get thicker and thinner in places, which can create a bit of a strange look. Like you can also see a few imperfections here where there was like a little bit of fuzzing in the yarn. But there are a few spots on here where the yarn sort of has a fuzzy property to it. It doesn't bother me that much. I can live with it. But it's just something to be aware of. I still highly recommend the Wild and Soft from Gepard. It's a beautiful yarn, especially for summer. And I think it's maybe a little bit underrated. I don't see it used as much as maybe a pure silk or a cotton or the Sunless Garn Line. So check that out and see if that works for you. Now, talking about the details of this top, this is just a super special design. It really is an elevated basic t-shirt. So you have this kind of raised line detail all across the back. And then on the bottom ribbing, you do exactly the same, and same with the neckline. So you can choose, it says in the pattern, you could opt not to include that raised piece because it does take a little bit of extra work. You are picking up stitches, casting things off, picking them back up again, then starting on your twisted rib. But honestly, it didn't take a ton of extra time, and I think it's highly worth it because otherwise you would just have your standard rib or twisted rib detail here, and these extra raised lines are really what make this piece so special. On the sleeves, you don't have the raised piece, you just go straight into twisted rib, and then you do your standard Italian bind off, though you do have some additional setup rows here. I will say I kind of made a bit of a misjudgment on this. On this sleeve, I just did my typical Italian bind off where I always pull the yarn fully through before moving on to the next step. And on this sleeve, I decided to sort of cut corners and what did I do? I, would knit off and then immediately put my yarn to purl into the next knit stitch before pulling the yarn all the way out. And what I found is it really kind of messed up my tension. So you'll see some spots here where the yarn is a bit raised, and just in general, this sleeve feels sloppier than this one. So it also feels looser. When I'm wearing it, I don't really notice it. So I think just the fact that this is twisted rib and an Italian bind off, I don't think I really need to go back and fix this. Nobody will notice, I won't really notice, but it's just something to maybe be aware of, especially if you need two sides to match. Just make sure you do that Italian bind off the same way. I don't know if other people have experienced that with sort of doing steps together with the Italian bind off, but it didn't really work that well for me this time. And yeah, I just reverted back to my traditional method on the neckline, and I think it turned out quite clear. The other thing on this, when I joined a ball of yarn, ended up with like a little bit of a gape there, and I can't seem to fix it. It's on the back though, so nobody will really notice. And I also originally this back line on the rib, because your back of row marker is right in the back there, middle back, it didn't look totally connected before I sewed in all my ends, and I think it looks okay now. It's not the end of the world. Yeah, it looks pretty straight though, so good enough. So this piece overall, not 100% perfect in terms of my constructions and some of my finishing details. Oh, I almost forgot one of the best parts. This also has a faux side seam. So once you're done your, let me fix this. Once you're done your decreases for the sleeve, you then carry on this faux seam detail. I did have an issue though on which side? Yeah, this side, where I seem to have messed up one of my kind of slip stitches versus purl, and therefore or slip stitch versus knit, and therefore it looks a little bit wonky at the bottom, but not the end of the world. It's fine. Again, nobody will really notice the side seams, especially at the very bottom. It's more going to be tucked in and folded. So yeah, now that I've talked about this, let me throw it back on and I will go through sort of some of the final details of it. I really love the feeling of wearing it. Yeah, okay, so details, let's see. I made a size small on this, and pre-block I had a length of 49 centimeters and a width of 88 centimeters. And for the size small for this, you want a length of 52 and a width of roughly 102 centimeters, which would have given me, I believe, about 15 centimeters of positive ease. I measured today right before this, and post block I did get the 52 centimeter length, maybe like plus or minus a centimeter, and width of 98 centimeters. So I'm 4 centimeters off for the width. However, I am really happy with the overall positive ease of this, and I think with some wear it's just going to continue to maybe stretch out a little bit. It also hits perfect for where I would want my shirts, because I, for the most part, do tuck things in, and I have enough length that I can do that with the pants that I'm wearing. So really good fit, happy with the size small, and I'm also really, really happy with the cost of this project. So total cost was 26 euros and 72 cents. I used 3.86 balls of yarn, but let's call it 4, and I paid 668 euros per ball from Garntopia during a sale, but then with the shipping costs, it kind of evened out, so I just used the retail price here. So yeah, I mean, 26.72 for a beautiful t-shirt that I think looks like it was bought in the store, has a really interesting construction and fit. I don't think you can go wrong with that. So this is definitely a pattern I think, you know, I'll see with a bit more wear, but I'm pretty confident I would make it again. Maybe not right away, maybe not this season, because it's also just, it has so many little details. I'm not in a rush to pick it back up because it wasn't really a mindless knit. Even with that side seam, you really have to be paying attention on every row to what you're doing. But it worked out beautifully, and I think it created a stunning garment in the end. So maybe for next spring, I throw this back on the list in a different color, maybe something a bit more punchy and bright. But this is really a neutral that I think is going to work completely perfect in my wardrobe. I can already picture all the outfits I'm going to put together, and I think we'll see in the next wear test video, but I think I will be wearing this a lot and that it will receive very high praise. So that is my SONYA shirt, and honestly, I don't really have a ton else to say about it other than I'm happy. Then I wanted to give an update on my Cardigan No.4 from My Favorite Things Knitwear. I put this in the wear test video, but if you haven't watched that, I just wanted to highlight that I did in fact finally add the buttons to this. So this is officially a complete finished garment. I am very happy with the buttons that I chose. It is this really, simple but elegant kind of pearlescent white cream button. I think it goes perfectly with this piece. And even though we're going into summer and this is a complete mohair garment, I think it's still a nice one to throw on over other things, especially when it's a bit chilly. And so I think I will keep this out and not pack it away for winter so that I just have it to throw on a chillier, probably rainy day here in Amsterdam. So there's the update on the Cardigan No.4. Super happy with how that's turned out. I'm wearing it all the time. I will say I maybe preferred it without the buttons. I kind of liked that it was a bit more casual and I just wore it open, because actually one thing I can maybe say and also ask a question about, because I keep forgetting to Google this. So I did the button reinforcement and it's a little bit sloppy, but I'm wondering, was the button reinforcement meant to be on the wrong side? Because I feel like the wrong side looks better than the right. So now I sort of feel like I have to wear it with the buttons done up because, yeah, those reinforced buttonholes just aren't super appealing to me in terms of overall look. So it was my first time doing reinforced buttonholes. Was I supposed to do them on the opposite side and I just messed that up? Or is that really how it's supposed to look in the end? I will Google this, but I'm also just curious from everybody if you know, and maybe I did it wrong, and then I'll learn for next time. Okay, now we have, I think, the big topic for today that's going to take the majority of the time. I want to really dig into my first colorwork project. So this is the first whip that I want to share, and it is my fancy Pepitas skirt test knit from, I'm hoping I'm saying this right, Ann-Kathrin or Ann-Kathrin Stoll. And I am doing an extra small for this based on my measurements. We have a group chat going, which has been super helpful. There isn't actually a specific deadline for this piece. She is publishing it in, I think she said, in her upcoming book. So she just more needed us to get started and give feedback, read it through, see if it made sense. So I will admit, when I first read this pattern, I was very confused. I think also because it's color work. And so when we're talking about yarn being on top versus the bottom, it didn't make any sense to me, but I asked the stupid questions in the group chat. Everybody was really helpful and kind and pointed to me towards some helpful videos. So I had cast this on, I forget what day, it was like 2 weeks ago. I cast it on a Friday and I was so addicted to working on this. So I actually finished the whole front panel. I'm sorry, it's been in a bag, so now it's looking a little bit wrinkled. But this piece is now blocked, and it will be kind of the front panel, and then you knit another one in the back, and then you join them on the sides, and then create the hem and the waistband in the round. So it is a bit involved, and for some reason, when I signed up for this test knit, I had in my mind that the color work was only on the front panel and the rest was just solid, which I'm not sure why I thought that, probably because the only pictures on Instagram that she had so far were of the front of it. So I just did some things in my head and decided, oh, that must mean that the back is one color. So I ordered yarn thinking that, only to realize when I got it, I read the pattern, it was like, knit the back as if the front, which at first I was super confused, and I almost commented like, is this missing more direction? And then realized, no, it's color work, and it's literally repeating this piece on the back. So I did cast it on kind of immediately after I finished this piece, and I got through, wrong way, 2 rounds of repeats, and then, yeah, actually not even 2. This is 1.5. And I couldn't concentrate. I kept messing up. I kept taking back. And so I put it aside and then realized, what am I doing? This doesn't have a deadline. I desperately need to finish my MELIDES dress. So I need to just full steam ahead, focus on that. And therefore I blocked this. I started the next piece and then kind of tossed it aside, and I haven't touched it in a few weeks. But that's fine. I don't need to finish it right now. I won't be wearing it till fall. I don't want to put it aside for too long, but I do have other priorities. And also I really wanted to finish the SONYA shirt because I was so close to being done. I just had all the finishing details, and I was like, I don't want to cast on anything new until I have one of these projects off my needles, and the SONYA shirt was the most likely to be the one off. So I decided to just finish that while also working through the MELIDES dress. But I will say I am feeling so much inspiration for spring. I think I said this in the last episode too. And I'm just dying to have like 10 projects on my needles. And I know that that's not a good way to go, but I don't have a single just straight stockinette project right now, which is driving me crazy. So yeah, I'll get into that a little bit later in this episode, but let's get back to the color work. So this was challenging for me because I am an English knitter, so I throw my yarn with my right hand, and I tried to do that at the start, so just kind of drop and pick up each piece, and especially on the knit side, that was very time consuming. So I'd already kind of been practicing more, I think it's the Norwegian knit, where your finger is really, really close to the needle and you're picking up the yarn, so you don't really need to move your finger that much. And I was getting better and better at that. So I decided this is a good opportunity to just really practice that and force myself to do it. So I think, roughly halfway through this piece, I got really good actually at the Norwegian knit, but then you have to do the stock or the purl side, and that is where I really struggled. I tried really hard to do continental purling. I did try to learn Norwegian purling. I think I could get that down, but I need a bit more practice just on a swatch. So I was trying to do continental, and it was just really slowing me down. I realized I was way faster actually on that side to just drop and pick up, drop and pick up. So I kind of abandoned the idea of continental purling for now, but I think I could get it with some practice. I think when I'm done some of these projects, what I'm going to do is just do a big swatch with some scrap yarn to practice the Norwegian knit and purl and see if I can get that down pat, because I think with the Norwegian purl and the yarn being held in the back, even though it's more steps, like I think Stacy from Very Pink Knits describes it as a bit of a dance, even though it seems more complicated, it feels like once you get into a rhythm, it would be manageable and probably pretty easy. So I'd like to practice that because it would be nice to have some options to do different types of knitting. When I was working my swatch for this project, I did try, when I was working my swatch for this project, I did attempt to catch floats, but for the most part with this houndstooth pattern, which is just gorgeous by the way, you only have at most, I think, 5 stitches between the color breaks. And so I realized, especially for a skirt, it's not something I'm going to be pulling over my head. There's nothing for the floats to really catch on when I'm wearing this. So I opted to just leave them as is, and I think it's going to be fine. I feel like my tension is pretty good on the back here. It looks consistent. So why add some additional steps for myself? If I ever do more advanced color work in the future, which I don't know if I ever will, maybe I will really try to learn that. But for this piece specifically, I wanted to save myself one extra learning curve and just do what was a little bit easier. Be curious to know from you guys if you feel like I should have been catching floats, or for, you know, this, I think it's 9 stitches, and yeah, for really the most is like 6 to 7 stitches between. I think it's fine, but those of you with more color work expertise, feel free to weigh in. I was also a tad worried that I would not like this very subtle color difference. So when I got the yarn, these are the 2 I showed last time. So it is the, what yarn is this? Yeah, okay. So this is Lana Grossa Landlust Alpaka Merino 160 yarn in the color 405 and 404. So this really light brown paired with this slightly darker beigey brown. And when I got them, I was like, okay, it's not exactly the color contrast I was hoping for, but I think when worked up, it offers just the right amount. And for my first color work project, I think it's probably best that I didn't go with something like a black and a white that would show every mistake. I think this color contrast actually hides possible imperfections a little bit more. Though I will say, I don't think I actually have any imperfections on this piece. And the reason I don't is because I did a lot of tinking back. So rather than just live with mistakes, if I noticed that I was off by a stitch or 2, I knew that would completely throw off the pattern. So I did always go back and correct it. But I would say it was rare for me to get past 2 rows without having to tink back. And I think it's just because while I was working on this, my mind was just going and going and going, and I wasn't super focused. So yeah, there was days where I was like, okay, I've just spent almost all my time working on this, tinking, and not enough actually knitting and making progress. So I would just say, okay, I need to put it aside, come back to it later, because I'm not going to get anywhere. So it is a project that's a bit difficult when you're distracted, but I'm glad that I've put the effort into really trying to make this as good as it can be, because the pattern turned out perfectly, and I'm very happy with that. When I gauge swatch for this, I did notice my tension was quite different between the color work and just straight stockinette, and because this pattern has so much of both, I opted to do the color work on 4.5 millimeter needles because my tension is tighter. And when I do the stockinette sections, so the sides and the trim, I will move to 4 millimeter needle because my gauge was completely different between the two. I think I was 2 to 3 stitches off. So I think making that modification will help a lot. If you are thinking about knitting this when it comes out, whenever that will be, this panel took me 3 days of fairly monogamous knitting. So I worked on it, I cast it on a Friday afternoon and I finished it a Sunday afternoon. And it was basically all that I worked on that weekend. So not too bad. So 2 panels could maybe take 6 days. If you're a much better continental knitter or color work knitter, maybe you could even finish this in a day or 2 per panel. But yeah, it went pretty fast. I was really impressed by that actually, because when I started, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a long one. So this is my fancy Pepitas skirt, and it is my very first test knit in, I want to say, 2 years. I think the last test knit I did was the Chloe pullover a couple winters ago. For the most part, I'm not a big test knitter. I don't like having a deadline. I also don't love being part of the group that's pointing out mistakes and having to kind of have that additional mental bit when you're working on a pattern. So for me, it's a process I've realized I don't love. It doesn't mean I'll never do it, but in this case, I'd had this pattern saved since she first posted a picture of it, I think 7 or 8 months ago. And so when I saw the test knitter call, I figured I'd just throw my name in. I knew I wanted to make this anyway, and maybe it would actually force me to do color work for the first time, which I was excited about. So I'm glad that I did. I'm also glad it doesn't actually have a hard deadline. It was more just feedback on how the pattern's written and if it's understandable. So I can take my time on this and continue focusing on the pieces that I really need to be focused on, which is a great segue into my MELIDES dress. I have actually made quite a lot of progress since my last video a few weeks ago. So I believe I had finished, I think I'd finished all the straps. So the top part was done, and I have now been working on, so this was the waist to high hip, which is about here. And then now I'm doing the high hip to the hip, which I have about 14 more rows to go on that. And then it's just going to be straight down till the length that I want. I did originally have try-on tubing here. Okay, one second. MELIDES Dress by Vert Knit, and I'm knitting this in pure silk in deep petroleum blue. Sorry, I just jumped straight into the detail there, assuming that you've all watched these videos before or you've been watching my vlog, which I have done 3 videos now for the vlog series, and I will probably be posting another one soon because I've had quite a lot of footage for this. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So I did originally have try-on tubing for the sleeves because you're supposed to kind of leave them ungrafted with Kitchener stitch until you finish the dress to see, okay, do you need to adjust the strap length? But I had like the try-on tubes, the yarn hanging off, everything was getting tangled together, and I was spending a ton of time trying to get things apart. And so I just opted to yesterday graft the armbands together, and then I figure if I don't like them, then I will go back in, pick up the stitches, cut out the bind off, and put it back together. So it's not the end of the world. I figured that would actually be less hassle than continuing to try to navigate the try-on tubing. But when I tried this on today, I actually realized I think the straps are actually too long now. So I had added 3 extra centimeters to each side. I think, yeah, after the last video that I filmed. And where? Oh my God, I'm stuck. What is happening? There we go. Yeah, I had added 3 centimeters to each sleeve because they were way too short when I tried it on the first time. And 3 centimeters was roughly what the pattern had called for the final length after I measured. But now that I've actually blocked it, I think they are too long. The I-cord might help fix that, but then I don't necessarily want to put the I-cords on, then realize it's still pulling down too much, and then have to go back, rip the I-cord out, and do it again. So once I'm done the whole dress, I'll put it on, I'll see how I'm feeling, but I might go in and just remove a centimeter from each sleeve. It is a little bit hard to try on though properly. just because also with the needles here, like I can't fully get it around my waist. I did opt to block this top section just to make sure it would actually fit around my bust. Good news is it does, so I feel confident moving on. But when I put it on today, I was like, ooh, I don't know if this is actually gonna go around my hips, but I figure what I need to do is just put it on try-on tubing, make sure that it can really stretch out properly, and then I know with blocking, it is, like, I don't know if you can see between these two sections, but like this is blocked, this isn't. So it is going to open up, I think, quite a bit. And yeah, the pattern has been right for everything else, so I think I just need to trust that process. So I still have a really long ways to go. I am technically done the second to last, or I'm almost done the second to last section of the pattern, but then with the skirt, it just is like knit to the desired length, and based on where my hip is, I want this to go to roughly below my knee, which is, I think, gonna be like 200 rows if I'm reading the pattern correctly. And I have under 3 weeks to finish this. So we leave for Sicily May 25th, and that means by May 25th, I need to have it blocked, the I-cords added, the buttons added, and that I-cord I think is gonna take quite a while because it literally goes around the whole dress and the sleeves. So I probably need to finish this by next Wednesday, like a week and a half, 2 weeks from now, so that I have a whole week to do the I-cord and get it blocked. So I don't know, I think like this really has to be my primary focus now, because otherwise I don't have a chance. And like I've been saying, I really, really want this in Sicily. I want the beautiful pictures with the water in the background. I don't know why, I just have this like vision in my head. And I feel like in Amsterdam, I'm not gonna have a ton of chances to wear this. So I'm just gonna keep pushing. I do have quite a bit of time over the next few weeks to work on it. So there is a chance, but I think we're gonna be down to the wire. I also just really want to call out here, so in our group chat, Gabby, and I'll put her Instagram name up here, she has been doing a 2-color version in yellow and this like poppy blue, I think, and it looks fabulous. She's so far along. She's been posting her progress, and so I just really want to give a shout out that if you're not following Gabby already, you definitely should. Not only is her dress content great, but she has like so many other amazing pieces that she's working on. I just really, really enjoy her content on Instagram. And also I am so thankful for the group chat that we have on this dress because I have been using it a lot. There's so many questions as you go through this, and it's just good to know that you're not the only one struggling, because the pattern can feel a little bit overwhelming. It's really, really not in the end, but it feels that way. The other thing I'm going to say on this is when I kind of got to this lower section, I was feeling really, really confident, and I decided to take this on a knitting date on Saturday, thinking, oh, it's just going to be mindless, yeah, kind of back and forth. I don't have any increases to do for a while, so other than the dart stitches, there's nothing complicated about this. And I got to my 3rd row and realized I had a really weird stitch issue that I figured was probably, I don't know, I dropped a stitch, or I don't know what I thought I did, something. So I just figured I could drop that stitch, ladder back up, fix it, no big deal. And so I removed the stitch, and then things just started to unravel and become more and more complicated. I suddenly had this really long thread that didn't seem to come from any stitch. It was almost like something had unraveled itself, like a stitch just completely came apart. And Moriam, who I was on the knitting date with, we literally like sat in this dark bar with a flashlight out for, I think it was 30 minutes, trying to figure out together what had happened in this piece, how we fixed it. We had the crochet hook out, and there was just absolutely no fixing it. If I still have the video, I will insert it here to kind of show what happened. I've never done something like that before or seen that kind of issue pop up, so I don't even know what caused it. Oh, I don't know if you can hear that. It's the first Monday of the month, and that's always when they put the siren on in Amsterdam. It's always funny. You're always like, oh yeah, okay, new month out there. Yeah, so every Monday, the first of the month, this siren happens, which hopefully is never an emergency. It hasn't been so far. Let's give it a moment. Okay, there we go. And now I have absolutely no idea what I was saying. Oh yes, the dress issue. So yeah, dropped that weird stitch, spent a half an hour trying to do surgery on it, hoping that I would not have to rip this thing back out. And what killed me was, before I left for this knitting date, I was like, I need to put in a lifeline. I finished this like other section. This is the perfect moment before I move on to the next part of the pattern. And that way, if I do mess up, because I'm talking, and there's probably a good chance that I will, nothing really lost. I just start over. And I got to the date, I pulled out my project and realized I didn't put in the lifeline. I had no yarn to do it, and so it was the only project I had with me. So I carried on thinking, what's the worst that could happen? Well, the worst happened. So that stitch issue, yeah, no solving it, had to come home. I spent 2 hours putting in a lifeline, which originally I put it in thinking, okay, I got all the stitches correct, and then I started to rip my yarn out, only to realize, like, from the right side of where the issue was, I was off on how many stitches down I had put the lifeline in. So then I had to go back and fix the lifeline on that side so that it was in the right place before I could actually start knitting again. So, I mean, this is 3.25 millimeter needles. I think at this point there's 300 something stitches on my needles. It's no small feat to put in a lifeline for that. So yeah, I got it done. I managed to save it. I think I have one dart stitch now that looks a little bit off, but nothing super noticeable. And from now on, I am just going to put lifelines in roughly every 20 stitches. So I had done kind of my next round of increases yesterday, and then this morning I put in another lifeline. I'm now doing the second set of increases for this section. Then I will put in another lifeline. I know it's a bit of a hassle, but especially for this dress, as I get further towards the bottom, it would just be absolutely devastating if I was not able to fix this and I had to give up all this work, like months of work. So I guess, like, also a lesson to everybody here, like, sometimes it's just worth it to put in the lifeline because having to do it later or fix certain mistakes is just so much extra effort. And yeah, I hate that process. So that is my plan going forward on this one. Hard to show right now, but hopefully at this point I've talked enough about this dress. You know what it looks like, you know what to expect, and we have a hard deadline. So Sicily, here I come. Then I have one final work in progress, which I casted on yesterday. So I had been working on my dress all day. I had finished my SONYA shirt, and my reward was, okay, I felt my brain needed a new project. and I was getting a bit too tired working on my dress, also because I hadn't put in a new lifeline yet and I could feel my brain was getting tired. So I decided better to just start something new, and then if something went wrong, I could easily just rip it out and start over. So I finally cast on my Braidy loop cardigan from Other Loops, and it doesn't look like much, but this was like an hour of work last night. And the way that this works is you think this is like the back panel, so like this, and then you cast on some extra stitches, and then you'll start to increase to build out the back. And then when you finish that section, you take your provisional cast on here, and then you start on the left side, build that out. I don't know, there's a whole diagram for this in the pattern. And at the same time, you're working this main cable that runs along your back, and then this cable that I just started yesterday will run along, I think it's like the sleeve. I don't know exactly. I'm trusting the process on this one because the pattern seems a little bit confusing. Also, it's my first Other Loops pattern, and it's definitely written different than I am used to. It's like row 3, work 9 rounds this way. And so I'm really having to count, and like I'm using my iPad to kind of just highlight when I've finished a section. So it's not really a project that I can just mindlessly work on or get used to, because there's lots of changes and lots of referencing back to the pattern. Maybe that will change once I'm a bit more into the rhythm. But yeah, I am excited to cast this one on because I'm really feeling I have gaps in my wardrobe right now for cardigans, and I really want more. So a reminder for this, I will be using a Sayer Jensen yarn in color 2S, paired with the same color mohair, also from a Sayer. And this is really my favorite mohair of all time that I've worked with, so I think it's going to make a beautiful piece together. I was originally a little bit upset that it wasn't more gray, because that's what I was hoping for. But I was reading through my color profile yesterday from my color analysis, and actually grays are just a color that I'm meant to avoid entirely. So I think it's actually best that this is a bit more creamy than gray. It's still not actually my ideal color, but I'm gonna carry on because I think I can pair it over top of colors that are. But yeah, so finally have a new cast on. I'm very excited for that because it felt like it's been a while, even though I also had my test knit. It's just I've been working on the same patterns for so long, and yeah, I'm ready for something new. That brings me to plans and acquisitions. So I got a little bit of new yarn, and this is really in prep for Sicily. So I've been trying to figure out, okay, I should have my MELIDES dress done by that trip. I don't really want to pack a ton of big projects or any big projects because we're doing carry-ons. So I need some lightweight projects that are ideally mindless because I'm gonna be with family, we're gonna be driving around a lot, and I'm gonna be knitting kind of here and there, and I would just like to have ideally stockinette projects. So I decided to pick up the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the color Putty so that I can make an additional Cumulus Tee. I absolutely love the one that I made last fall, which is in that, why can I never remember the color of it? It's like Dusty Rose, but that's not the color name. Whatever the color name is, I wore it last episode, I think. So I decided I want another Cumulus Tee, but I want a really neutral color so that I can pair it with all the different pants and skirts that I have. So I'm gonna make that in putty, and ideally I cast this on in the coming week or two so that I'm through most of the increases, and then it's just a matter of knitting in the round on the body and the sleeves. So that is the plan for this. It's definitely coming to Sicily. And then I also got more pure silk in the color Dusty Artichoke, and this is going to be probably for a MELIDES top. So hey, apparently I haven't had enough with the dress, let's just keep going. But I do love Vert's patterns. I think she does a beautiful job with all her designs, and it's a top that I attempted to make last year, but my gauge was off. And now that I have swatched so many times for the MELIDES dress, and it is basically the same construction and same gauge, I know now that I need to make that top on 3.25, because when I did 3mm last year, it was way too tight. I knew I was never gonna wear it, so I ended up scrapping it. And also I was planning to make it in dark cognac, which didn't, I don't know, the color wasn't speaking to me. So this Dusty Artichoke I think will go really well with both browns and navies for neutrals. And I also have my eye on a pair of light trousers that are in a very similar color so that I can do a bit of a coordinating set matchy look. So yeah, I think this will be a nice top to also bring to Sicily because it's really small. I think I could actually finish it there, maybe even wear it there. But yeah, so that is one project that I plan to do. And other than that, I don't have any new yarn to share. I will be actually going to Lithuania with my husband next week. And I plan to buy quite a lot of yarn there. So I would like to get yarn for the, I don't know how to pronounce this, Ppoppo? I'll put the name up. And I also don't know how to pronounce the designer's name. What is her name? Okay. Ppoppo jacket by Aegyoknit. I have no idea. I'm very sorry that I'm butchering that. I really love the way that this just looks so casual and open. I also just noticed on the podcast Danish Musings that she had just finished this test knit, and her version in this kind of sagey gray green just absolutely sold me on this piece, because all I'd seen was the navy version in the pattern photos, because I couldn't find this on Ravelry actually. And I thought it looked good and like it had a nice fit in the pattern photos, but then really seeing it on in a different color and different yarn completely sold me on it. So I'm hoping in Lithuania, so we're going to Vilnius, I'm hoping that I'll be able to find yarn for that. And then I'm also hoping to find yarn for a Farnham tee. So depending what I get there, I think I have 3 days total. And there's actually quite a lot of really nice yarn shops there. So I am hoping that I will be able to find yarn for both those projects, and maybe one of those will actually come with me to Sicily instead of these other pure silk projects, just to switch it up a little. So I will get into why I'm going to Lithuania in a second. First, I'm just gonna finish up the acquisitions. So when I went on my knitting date with Moriam this weekend, she was so sweet and ended up gifting me some hand sewn knitting bags that she made. So she's also a sewist. And this is one of the project bags that she made. And like all of this is hand stitching around here. And it's got tons of space. So it'll be like a perfect sweater project bag, I think. So she gave me that. And then she also made 2 just like pouches to throw accessories into, and then like more of a square one. So just so sweet. I was really blown away that she made these for me. Also, how talented. She should really sell them. So yeah, just adding to my actual project bag collection. because I pretty much only have project bags other than my kind of hedgehog one from clothes and purses that I bought. I don't really tend to buy project bags, so this is super cute. Oh, I'm also just noticing that it has actually a pocket on the side too. I never noticed that on the weekend. So thank you so much, Maureen, for that. That was really, really kind, and I will definitely be getting a lot of use out of these. So that's kind of all the acquisitions and plans at the moment, and maybe now getting into a bit of a life update to also explain why I'm going to Lithuania. So unfortunately, my company went through layoffs, and I was impacted by that, which is a bit difficult. I've never been laid off before, but honestly, I'm also a little bit excited about opportunities that this could bring for me. It gives me more time to dedicate to this YouTube channel. Also, the digital knitting product that I've been thinking about. Working full-time has made it really difficult for me to focus on that this year. And now having the free space to really dedicate to that, I'm hoping that I can make some progress, really turn that idea into action. While it's unfortunate news, I also think maybe it's a bit of a blessing and something that could bring a lot of good into my life longer term. And that's how I'm going to try to continue to look at it. But so what this also means is my husband travels a lot for work across Europe, and his headquarters is actually based in Vilnius, Lithuania. So he asked if I wanted to just join him for a work trip next week. And I've never been to Lithuania before, neither has he. And honestly, it looks stunning. I didn't know anything about it, and when he asked me to go, I decided to watch some YouTube videos, see what it was all about, and now I'm so excited to go. So we head up on Sunday. We decided to add some time to his trip so that we get roughly 2 days together there before he goes into full-on work mode, and then I'll just entertain myself. And what was nice is I posted a story on Instagram a couple weeks ago to see, okay, what is there to do there? What yarn shop should I check out? And I forgot that actually the girl or the woman that I sold my yarn advent to lives there. So we may get together. She also gave me some great recommendations. And then when she posted on her story, I actually got some additional recommendations from others in her network who live there. And one woman actually works at the yarn shop that's been highly recommended. So I'm definitely going to stop by there and see her. And who knows, maybe we'll all have a bit of a knitting date while I'm in Vilnius. And maybe that brings me to like the next point that I really wanted to highlight here. I know that I've thanked you all so much in the past for being a part of this community and supporting me and watching my videos and engaging, but I just really want to say again, like how sincerely grateful I am for everybody that shows up. I love seeing the same comments from people, but more importantly, I really love that I've had a chance to engage with people in person or virtually, like face to face, so much this year. I started the year saying my goal was to make more real life knitting friends. In the past, it's been a very isolating hobby for me. I sit at home, I knit, I maybe post a photo here and there on Instagram, but I don't know, knitting was just like really an introvert hobby for me. And unless I went to the knitting group here in Amsterdam, I didn't really make it a social hobby. And of course, having this channel has helped a lot, but I think putting that intention out there this year has also really brought so much to my life. So the amount of virtual knitting dates that I've had where people have just reached out saying, hey, I also need knitting friends. I would love to just meet for an hour or two and knit on a Sunday together. And then I also have the group chat for the MELIDES Dress, which like being able to find people that are knitting the same projects as me and offer support to each other has been great. So I don't know, I think I never really expected that when I started this channel, that people would actually want to talk. I figured, okay, people would comment and that would be fine, but I really feel like I've built some strong friendships through this. I'm realizing that too. No matter where I kind of go in the world, there's people that I can easily just become friends with and get together with. So really just thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for commenting, for reaching out, for really making an effort. I really appreciated that, and it's really brought a lot of joy into my life. And so I just really wanted to take a moment to say that. So with all of that being said, if you want to be part of this community, I would love to have you. I really appreciate everybody new that's joining and all of you that have been here for a while. So please don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications. I post podcast episodes roughly every 2 to 3 weeks, and I have lots of ideas now for upcoming content. Also, now that I have more time to film content, if you have ideas for anything that you'd like me to show on this channel, please just comment and let me know. I'm open to any and all new topic ideas. I have tons of my own, but I have quite a lot of time to put together new videos now. So I want to make sure that they're relevant for you. Thank you so much for being here. I really hope that you'll stick around, and I will see you in a future episode.